and it was at the Bond Wedding Center here in Salt Lake City. And our conference was called Restoring the Balance. Now is the time. And that was really fun. There were some marvelous people that were the guest speakers. I don't know if you remember Doris Vulcan LeDuc. She was a nurse, psych nurse, and she spoke on death and dying. I spoke on sex.
Oh! Oh! Okay, well, there's a diversion I want to take right there. What did you say? What was your top? What was
well,
the talk
I
about?
totally blew everybody's mind because at that time I was selling sexy lingerie and adult toys on the party plan. And it was for a company called Fun Parties. And fun was for us now. And it was really a blast. I had several women under me, and I was a manager, and it was really fun. Oh, she wants to be in on this. It's like, excuse me, but I want to be in.
Mom, is there a video being made? Because I'm really cute.
Yes, I'm really, really cute. So, but it was fun, and what we did is the parties were done at home, just like Tupperware, but you didn't have to burp it, And then I would take any of the orders in a bedroom. Oh, get your mind out of the gutter, and people would talk to me about, issues they had, perhaps, like a lady who'd been married 19 years and had never had an orgasm. People with all kinds of issues, and teaching women don't use this particular lotion or potion or whatever because it causes infection, and that's just not a good idea, whether it be a yeast infection, urinary tract, and my wildest party was about 30 couples who were all deaf, and they had hired an interpreter. And that went wild. That was the funniest thing. And no, it was as loud as anything could ever be.
I would love to see the ASL for a lot of those things you would have been talking about.
What is ASL?
American Sign Language.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. This pops up, but it's like anal love beads. American Sign Language. And it's so funny. It's like if I got heckled by anybody, usually, like a guy, if I did a party for couples, and a guy would be heckling, and, and I would say, and we have bigger ones for bigger, and then we had this stuff that was called anal ease. And all it really was baby numbs it, for the teeth. But I would, if a guy was heckling me, I just have them put it on their finger and put it on the tip of their tongue, and it would shut them up for quite a while. Just crazy things. But I also took it up to, we had a professor at the U, Patty Reagan, who was teaching human sexuality courses. And so she had asked me to bring my accoutrement up there, and I did, and we did Dance of the Dildos.
Ooh.
And I just would turn on the different vibrators and just put them on the desk and let them bob up and down. And people, got a big charge, and Patty Reagan, who was a really wonderful gal and was, seemed like she was so open-minded, turned bright red. But so that's my wilder side, okay? But that was fun, and teaching people things that they really needed to know, bare bones basics about sex. That oftentimes mom and dad ain't going to take you aside and give you the, tutelage.
And was this in Utah?
Yes.
So then mom and dad, there's high chance, just based on my experience and many of my friends, there's a good chance you're not getting a comprehensive sex education.
I don't think so.
So you go to Lilli DeCair. Lilli DeCair.
Brought to you by.
What do you need to know about? What do you need to talk about?
But that was kind of fun. Plus, when I came to Utah, people were having a hard time, like major corporations. And that's what happened with me and how I got here, was my hubby at the time was working for American Sterilizer Corporation back in Erie, Pennsylvania. And he went to various hospitals in the area. He had this whole territory and fixed autoclaves and surgical equipment, and people would have difficult time adjusting to being in Utah. Corporate people would come in, and the man who was working for the corporation would do fine because he was working and busy. It was the families, the mom and the kids, that had a harder time adjusting, and it was also because they didn't know the culture, and they wound up hearing all the stories about green jello and just funeral potatoes and just so many different stories that made them feel like outcasts. And so I wound up teaching a class up at the U on how to adjust when you first moved to Utah.
Ooh, what was the syllabus? What kind of stuff did you guys cover?
Well, I just basically talked about these various myths, and also that started having people look, you could live in the Bible Belt of America, and it is infinitely more difficult than it is to live here, and how it's a good idea not to throw the baby out with the bathwater because there are so many good teachings here, and to have them look at that versus over here, because they came in with so much fear. And what I wanted to do is dispel any of the fear that they had and realize this is a beautiful, wonderful place to settle. You have the mountains, the skiing, and nowadays there's so much wonderful culture here. There's theater, we have plays, we have so much bands and concerts and symphony and things that make Utah fabulous. So anyway, yeah. So that was a part of what I did 100 years ago.
And it sounds like kind of one of the core things that you do, that you're really good at hearing what is the story that someone is telling themselves, the way that they're interpreting something through the lens of fear, that makes it so that they aren't really living, that they can't see all the amazing things that a place or a person or an opportunity has.
And helping people bust through their fears and taking a look at things from another perspective, and then people, but it's so hard here. It is hard everywhere, put your big girl, big boy panties on and go. It's really okay. Take a look at the beauty. Take a look at back to Gratz and Pat's. What are you grateful for out here? Yeah. The beauty out here, the seasons that we have here. This is an amazing place, and it's called the Crossroads of the West for a reason.
Yeah, and do you know, when Dan and I first moved back to Salt Lake, the things that we were struck by was everything that we had in London exists here. It's just in London there might have been 20 of that thing, and here there's a couple of that thing. But I was almost in London intimidated by the amount of choice. There's so much theater happening. Which one do you go to? There's so many restaurants. Which one do you eat at? Whereas here you have an insanely incredible restaurant, a really fantastic bit of theater, and you have a smaller selection, which for me almost makes it more manageable to choose. And you could drive there and find parking,
yeah.
So.
Which is all, yeah. Yeah. And, even though we have a fairly large population now, we still have smaller population in places like London, like New York, like LA. And so, that is a benefit. And because I was watching Greta Thunberg last night, and I'm just thinking, she's a powerful young lady and very courageous. That it's difficult to stand up to the powers of the world, to just stand up. She started out just, sitting out in front of one of the office buildings, government buildings, with just a sign. And that's all she started as. She doesn't wear a bunch of makeup. She doesn't try to doll up. She tries to recycle. She's not just someone who's spouting and shouting. She's actually doing her best to live it, to walk the talk. And here there are all these big wigs, whether it's Putin or Trump or whoever, who have just sliced her into pieces. And she's just this little tiny girl. Yes, she is she's a teenager or young adult, and just the fact that she's helped other young adults realize that their voices can be heard and need to be heard. And she's talking about, we need to do it now, not 10 years from now. And as you watch some of her documentaries, it's really interesting about, I do believe we need to do something about environmental issues. I also think that so much of what we need to do has to be personal. When we try to, tell people what to do, you should do this, you must do this, that doesn't work. When we tell people, look, these are the facts and the figures, you do what you want to do. What do you feel obligated to do? What do you feel that is absolutely necessary? And when I talk about, we need to clean up air, water, breathe. Here, little boy. Okay, here, little boy. Let's get out of Mom's jacket. He's shedding.
Oh.
He's shedding, and so it's like,
springtime coat.
Yes, springtime.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
Mom needs to be camera ready.
Yes, camera ready. Oh, okay, all right. But I'm always asking the powers that be, what is it you would like me to speak? What would you like me to address? What do you want that I can put out there? Because I don't think of myself as any big wig. I just think, whatever I can do to assist others, that, to really help people on whatever level, and not telling them, you must do something, you must do just putting it out there. And I listen to people speak about things that I don't have a particular belief system in, but I just listen and let them, and sometimes I actually learn a thing or two. Hard as that may be to believe, and I don't always have to come at everything just from my perspective. We all have to kind of take a look at the whole world's perspective and how much someone from another country, another culture, can teach us and about different ways of doing things. And one thing I was thinking that just came to me, it struck me as kind of funny. My son was in the Marines, and the Marines have a slogan of Semper Fi. And I was thinking, so that's what they're saying. I thought they were always saying simplify.
What does simplify even mean?
I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. I'm sure some Marine somewhere will tell us. But it's like, yeah, so simplify.
Mm-hmm.
A very good thing,
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I wanted to ask you something.
Okay.
So you were talking a bit about walking your talk. So there's a couple strands I want to touch in on, and then I want to come to this list.
Oh, okay, all right. I knew you mentioned something about medicine wheel.
Yes, I have a zillion questions that are going to take many videos.
Oh, really?
Many videos, Lily. I have many videos, many things I need to know. But so we were talking earlier about when you were talking about your sex toys.
Oh,
you were
yes.
talking about presenting it as part of a conference originally.
Uh-huh.
And remind me the name of the conference.
Okay, restoring the balance. The time is now.
The time is now. And
yes.
You were telling me, you were beginning to tell me about one of the speakers, and then I was like, "Tell me about sex, Lily." It was a woman, and I'm trying to remember
Doris Vulcan-LeDuc, who was the psych nurse who
yes.
spoke about death and dying.
Yes.
Well, since then she has passed on.
Oh, well, now she's an expert.
Yes, now she's an expert. Oh, dear. Yes. What would you like to know? She was wonderful. She was funny. She was one of my Reiki students. She was one of my medicine wheel people. She was a Baha'i. And I was very active in the Baha'i world for 20 years, And yet, the more that I've matured, what I've actually seen is that I don't hold any particular belief system to my breast,
Only chi.
Only chi. Yet I do think, it's so funny because I've never been one to be only a vegetarian, and not. But I am finding myself, in my senior years eating much less meat. And not just for a health issue. I look at animals. And someone sent me a marvelous video. A friend I have in South Africa sent me a video of a gentleman who lives on an animal reserve there. And what he does is every day he massages lions.
Oh.
And the lions are wild. They're not trained. But he noticed that when he started to put salve on a lion's leg that had an infection or something, that the lion would shudder and would, and smile. And so that started him doing massage on a lion. And from that graduated to doing massage on other lions. And now every day there's this whole herd of lions that line up and lay down and wait for their turn to be massaged.
Oh.
And the picture was so darling. Here you've got this great big huge lion with a mane. And it is just laying on its back, like a dog would, with its leg up in the air, and he's massaging its paw. And, and it's just laying there with a smile on its face and its tongue hanging out. And then there is a line behind of it, about 6 female lions, all waiting their turn.
Okay, Fred, we know that you take a while. Can you just...
I just, when you realize that these beings, there are cultures who eat dogs, who eat cats. We eat fish. Turkeys, chickens, etc. And when you begin to realize that, oh my gosh, these are sentient beings. These are beings that feel. Cows can be snuggly and cuddly and love their people. So can horses. You'll have horse lovers who would tell you how much their horse adores them and they adore their horse. And it's like, oh my goodness, we've eaten these beings. And then there are cultures, whether it be Native American or African or whatever, who have, before they kill a beastie, they will do an honoring and a thanking for, the sacrifice. And I look at that and I think, thank you very much that you're willing to sacrifice yourself for my sustenance, And yet, like I said, I am eating less and less meat because for some reason it just doesn't feel good to me. It tastes flat. There's not a lot of flavor to it for me. But c'est la vie, but I am not about to tell other people you must be vegetarian. I'm not about to do that. It's like, no, I think each person needs to, those are personal issues. It's something that you resolve on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking, about Greta, and you were talking about leading by example, walking your talk, and that activism, anybody can assume the moral high ground.
Of course.
That's a very easy thing to do. And, to moralize, but to take it into the way that you're actually living.
Right.
And the discipline of what you're living, which is, it kind of circles back to what I was talking about the last time, of what I was so struck by when I have health issues.
Right.
It is such a primal fear.
Yes, of course.
And so terrifying. My brain will go in the futurize, awfulize.
Right, yes, of course.
What if? Mm-hmm. And my tendency is to draw the curtains and make life smaller.
That is called the fear of the permanent handicap. We all have it. The fear of the permanent handicap. I mean, we have everybody. That's just something that strikes everyone. And it's like, so that is one issue that people have to work on and overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we do it? Well, it's tough, but it's kind of looking at it, doing the same thing that we're taught in 12-step programs about, one day at a time, just for today. Just do what you're able to do today. If all you can do is lay in bed and suffer, that's your job for the day,
Mm-hmm.
And if you can fill your cup of knowledge and feelings to overflowing with positivity. It's one reason that I listen to CDs over and over and over, whether it's Anita Moorjani, Wayne Dwyer, Ram Dass, Louise Hay. There's just so many, whether it's music, whether it's talking and helping retrain the brain. I find that our minds are just like when we go to the university, we hear a lecture from a professor. We hear the information once. We don't get it, okay? We get a smattering, all right? I find that many of us have to hear the information over and over and over. Sometimes I will take notes and write because that includes my soma. And when we are using all of our body parts, not just intellectualizing, the more body parts we can use, whether it be spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, the more we can engage that so that we really grasp it and we take it from longest journey, which is basically head to heart and our solar plexus. We really have it in the core of our being. And that has, that's where when we go and we get lectures, I don't care what it's on, we need to hear it. And if you need to see it, if you need to smell it, if you need to touch it, whatever it is, but you've got to do it over and over until you can get it to drop down into the core of your being, not just know it from a head job. That's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
That shortchanges yourself. That's intellectualizing.
Mm-hmm.
And people begin to learn that. At first, young ones tend to think just knowing it on that surface level is sufficient. It's not. If you're going to teach something, if you're going to walk your talk, you're going to live something, you have got to get it into the core of your being, even into your soma or your muscle memory. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Because that's what I felt that I saw. You know, it's where the rubber meets the road. That's when you know how deeply ingrained something is.
Yes, yes.
So for me to come and watch you,
Mm-hmm.
and I had just been going through my Crohn's, another Crohn's flare-up, and I had
Right.
seen that I got there eventually. I got to a good place. I was able to kind of get myself into a really positive headspace, but it took a while.
Yeah.
And then I was coming and visiting with you,
Right.
and anybody looking at this video would never believe that this woman had a stroke 2 weeks ago, that this woman came out of open heart surgery a month ago, that, you know, just how tired and how much you were really navigating a body that was fibromyalgia, constant pain and
I'm
exhaustion.
still dealing with a touch of cancer.
Right, and then there's the cancer thing. You know, and it's because you do walk your talk. Like, my experience of you is that your practice is so solid. Like, if I could take this video camera around your house, and so many positive, uplifting phrases, photographs, paintings, you know, there's...
I feel like those are things that I need to do for me. You know, and I do those for me. Whether it's color, whether it's fun sayings or fun things to look at, inspires me. That is what I have to do for myself. It's part of my loving myself, because I need beauty. I need creativity. I need song and music and joy. And the more that I have that, the more all of my days go fabulous. I also know that we really have to watch our language. Semantics, the whole study of semantics. You know, S.I. Hayakawa in California taught about semantics and how words can get us ready to do something like, my knee is killing me. And what does that do? That says to the body, your knee's killing you, let's do it. Okay? And it's like, no. And when we start talking about things like, oh, you know, good things come to me on a daily basis. Yay! And they do. You know, and we just start saying, and those are small affirmations. I don't do too many affirmations around money. I do some, but I'm not real concerned about money. I mean, I make a small amount, under $1,000 a month, you know, and yet I'm just not really concerned. And also, as I was watching Greta's little documentary on that, where they were showing her at home in her closet, and she was showing how she had sweaters that she'd had for a long time, and hats that she wore year after year, and you know, that she does not really relish getting brand new items. And I feel like, you know, folks who nowadays, for some reason, we now have things like ThreadUp, and we have different companies that you can buy recycled clothing from. And it's like, yay! So that means that has hit mainstay population. It used to be you only did that because you had limited funds. Nowadays you do it because it's fun. You know, and it's just like, if you can buy a Gucci, you know, for $10, why not? It's just fun. And I know, like, up in Sun Valley, Idaho, in Ketchum, there is a place called the Gold Mine, which is so fun to go shopping at. And they fund the Ernest Hemingway Library up there. And so you will have a lot of people who are in the movie industry who wind up contributing things to that particular gold mine thrift store. In Driggs, Idaho, which is like an hour from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, they have a really fun secondhand store, and I just love to go there and peruse the books and all sorts of things that I wind up picking up, you know. And I also find that I may have worked and studied and traveled in over 30 countries and cultures, but what I don't bother to bring home mementos. I hardly even take a camera. I used to only buy postcards because I figured, hey, they're cheap and they come out and they look really good. And I'm not bonking someone on the head with my camera, you know. So when I'm shopping around in a secondhand store, oftentimes I will find a memento that comes from just where I was at. You know, so I'll pick that up and have that in its stead. And what it saved me was tons of money, and it also saved me from having to lug it around.
And I would say, like, all of that is an affirmation in action.
Like, affirmative action.
Yeah, because it goes back to that, you know, affirmations that are just lip service. That's a good first start, right? You know, fake it till you make it, and at least.
Well, it's like The Secret. You know, any of us who've been into metaphysics or studying anything, be it Lao Tzu and the Tao, or you know, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and on and on and on. It's like, okay, help me come back. Where am I? Remember, I had a stroke.
It's about, you know, affirmations, and that it's not just,
you know, when you're first studying, you've got to start somewhere, you know, and I feel like, well, good. Now there needs to be, for those people who have started and studied for a while, there needs to be higher, deeper things to study. And there are plenty if you just search it out. There are the ancient mystery schools, you know, and there are so many things. John and Jan Randolph Price, who had the Quartus Foundation, he wrote Spiritual Philosophy for the New World. And in it, I think on about page 21, there's a whole wonderful message and meditation to read and to work with. And it is on prosperity, but yet on all levels. And it also talks about no person, place, or condition is my supply. Source is my supply. And when we get that, because we get to thinking the boss is, or the corporation is, or the customer is, no person, place, or condition is my supply. Source is my supply. You know, that's a very good thought process to repeat to yourself over and over.
And talk a little bit about that, because, you know, you were saying earlier that you might make $1,000 a month, and yet that belies the prosperity that you actually, the abundance that you're experiencing constantly. And, you know, you were just talking about how, you know, people will mistake a boss or one particular job is your good.
Right.
And something that I've witnessed over 20 years with you is that you don't really worry about where the money's coming from. You're completely self-employed, and money comes to you in lieu of money. And you were the big one that taught me this. We like to exchange green pieces of paper for things.
Right.
Why not just cut out the green pieces of paper and you get the things? And that's what I've experienced being your friend for 20 years, is you just cut out that level of the green paper.
Right.
All the things, the services, the goods, the experiences, the trips, the clothes, the food, the objects, things just pour into your life in a way that if we were actually to put a price tag to it, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that are coming to you, you know?
Well, and like I've said on the previous video, is that okay, I can work as a publisher's clearinghouse sweepstakes, and if it's not meant for me, if it's meant for others, one thing I have done for eons, 20, 30, 40 years, is I have clothed people. Probably on an annual basis, I will go through all of my clothes and give them away, whether it's to homeless shelters or friends that I see that, maybe they're single moms or dads, and they've got kids and they've got to get, need clothing and stuff, and I have an ample supply and don't need, so it's like, here, have this, and I love being able to do that, and I do it in such a way that it is not devaluing the being. It's like, no, would you like this? It would look gorgeous on you, and really seeing and meaning it, being sincere about it. And it's like, oh, I'm done with this piece. I no longer need that. I've got plenty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and I do that whether it's food, whether it's clothing, whether it's, my home burned down about 10 years ago. Actually, it's been more like, it was in 2008 that it burned down. So it's maybe not quite 10 years. But in the process, I lost almost everything, did not have insurance at the time. And yet, Babs DeLay, who had a radio show called on KRCL called Women the Third Decade, put out the message that I needed help, that I had lost everything. And my goodness, so many things came. It's like, and not only that, I had better quality stuff than what I lost.
Upgrade. It's time for a clean out, and it was an upgrade.
And I'll tell you what, it's like, I know I used to talk to the powers that be and say, I really need my place organized. I really need to de-junk. Well,
kaboom!
Boy, did I de-junk in a hurry. One night was all it took,
Mm-hmm.
But even that was an amazing experience. People who came forth to give us a place to stay, to to take my son in, to take my husband in at the time, to feed us and clothe us, and just wonderful beings just being there.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly but surely just gathered way too much again.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What else?
And I think that's because there's an expectation that you have. So kind of going back to the affirmation, fake it till you make it, give lip service, it's useful to at least identify what you want to believe.
Right.
But then at some point it becomes a belief. Okay. And that's the experience that I've had of you, is that you just have belief that your bills will be paid, that your needs will be met,
right?
And if they aren't, then it wasn't a need,
right?
And I'm wondering if you have, because I know that along with health, those two especially can really make a lot of us so terrified that we just want to crawl into a hole, and some people might even choose to leave the planet over those kinds of things.
Absolutely, yes.
What advice do you have for people who are really struggling with financial insecurity or fear around money, abundance?
Well, like I said last week, panic. No.
Oh, right, okay, the video's done. Video's done.
No, it's, I do believe in treat and move your feet. Do what you can, do your best you can, and yet don't freak out. Oh, this will never happen and my life is so bad. Don't freak out. It's like, okay, what is it that you can take care of? And knowing that my good is on its way to me now, This or something better is coming to me now at a price I can easily afford. Right now, Spirit, I surrender my entire life to Thee. I am your woman, I'm your instrument. What is it that you would have me do? And as I said, my current prayer is, let my will be Thy will. Connecting with the mind of the divine, doing my best to, constantly, even before the video and before you came today. I do this all the time about what is it you would have me say? What is it you would have me do? What is it that would help others? Not just merely myself, but is it that would help someone? And if it's going to be a benefit to others, please, may I continue. If it's not, I'm okay with everything coming to a halt. I am just okay. Next. Next. And things just, I do think it takes kind of a while of practicing. I think people have to practice. And I think back to when I was saying semantics, okay? There is a book by a gentleman written a long time ago by Shad Helmstetter. And he wrote a book about what to say when you talk to yourself. And he was saying, by the time you're 18 to 20 or something, you've told yourself several million no's. And that we have to do something as individuals to overcome that. And so I have just caught myself as I'm speaking things that are about lack and limitation or fear or whatever, and it's like cancel.
Oh, yes. Teach us about the cancel.
Yes, as a little 5-year-old boy, Sean Vulcan Leduc. When now he's an adult and in college or through college or whatever, and I haven't seen him for years, but good friends with his mommy. Anyway, we were just taking a little walk, and I had said something that was negative, and this little guy looked up at me and said, "Oh, Lily, cancel. And it was like, oh my goodness, you're right. And I have used that tool ever since. Now other people will use delete, whatever other terms come to them, But yeah, cancel. I don't want that to be a part of my life, part of my world. I don't want that to be a part of my mindset.
And do you know, I've used that tool a lot since you taught it to me. And when you taught me that tool, you also taught me to be really playful with it. You said you don't say cancel as in like I'm beating myself up.
Right.
And sometimes with law of attraction and these kinds of things, there can be that fear that, oh no, I just affirmed something that I don't want, or oh no.
Yes.
And what you taught me is it's okay to just be really playful and go, oh, whoops. I just caught it. I don't want to go there.
Yes.
Cancel.
Absolutely.
And I find myself doing that a lot.
Right.
Like as soon as I catch it, maybe it's early in the morning and I'm walking around and I'm not awake yet and I'm thinking about things and I'm just having a little bitch fest in my brain or something like that, and I go, oh wait, I don't want to feel this way. Cancel.
That isn't what I want to draw into my world right now. Thank you very much. Oops.
Whoopsie.
And then remembering to replace that with something that you do want. Like what is it that you would really like? I would like that my drive to work today be very pleasant, safe, wonderful, good music on the radio, just so that by the time I get to my office, I'm feeling really good. Just replace, cancel, and replace with something that you do want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Abraham talks about if only. Wouldn't it be nice if all the money that I need for this particular bill made its way to me now? Wouldn't it be nice if that gentleman over there that I really think is a hunk would notice me? I think I'm not too bad either. You know, there's also something that Abraham talks about called the the placemat process. And that is where you're out to lunch, dinner, whatever. And, you know, there's a lot of restaurants have placemats. And you just take your pen and you just start writing things down that you would like to call to you. You don't have to phrase it in any way, or you just start listing them all over the placemat.
This brings me to a question that I've absolutely been wanting to ask you, and I'm very excited to be asking you right now.
Okay.
So you taught me about 101 wishes.
101 wishes,
Can
yes.
you tell us about the 101 wishes process?
Absolutely. Let me finish on the placemat process. After you've done all that and you are getting ready to leave your placemat there. And just let the universe take care of all those things. You don't need to worry about them. You don't need to concern yourself with it. Okay? So that's the placemat process. And that's just a fun little process. 101 wishes. I have in my notebook my 101 that I, started working on for 2021. Okay? And will you let me put you down for a few minutes, darling? Come on, let's just go here, baby boy. Thank you. Oh, what a good boy you are, darling. And matter of fact, isn't it interesting? There it is.
Oh!
Wish list. Okay, and I will just read you some of what my wishes are, and I haven't read these for a bit. Okay.
And do you want to teach people who might not be familiar with it what exactly it is and why they do it?
Okay, I have a lot of students who will do this at the end of the year or the beginning of the year. Okay, and 101 happens to be the magic number. That's why we do it for 101. And what you do is you just come and write wishes, not goals. Goals being
not being haired by the dog.
The hair of the dog bit you. Oh, good. Okay, wishes are not goals. Wishes can be absolutely fantastical. They can be way out there. I wish I could travel to Venus. I wish I could swim in a vat of chocolate, like Tommy Smothers. And yell, no, I don't want to yell chocolate. Nobody will come and help me. So, 101 wishes. I wish I could see fairies and divas dancing in my garden. So anyway, whatever it is that one wishes to put down and write 101 wishes, you can take as long as you want to. It's not like you have to sit down one setting and make 101. You just, when something comes to you, just put it on the list, okay? And then I would suggest putting that in a drawer and then going back maybe once a month or so and rereading, okay? And then also checking off on your list, what is it that may have come to fruition? Okay, and then also sometimes we begin to notice a pattern that the wishes we have put down are really kind of centered around a theme. And what is it that you're wanting to draw to you? And we get past the superfluous and we actually get kind of down to what is it. And this allows us to be fantastical rather than practical. Because practical, we start intellect, I can't put that down because I'm never gonna blah, 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 Don't have to do that. Just put it out there. in a good and prosperous and loving, positive way. We're not Son of Sam, you know.
Yes.
Okay.
Although that could reveal something, yeah.
Yeah, really.
And I remember you telling me it can be practical.
Uh-huh.
You can write as many practical things down, but I think that one of the reasons that you had told me 20 years ago when you first had me do it, that you do 101 is because eventually you're going to come to the end of your practical list.
Yes.
There will come a point where you're like, well, I think I've asked for, and then the little kid brain pops in.
Yes.
If you ask a 4-year-old what they wish for, to fly,
Yes.
to speak every language fluently and teleport, and that kind of, at a certain point, you start to engage with the part of your mind that is willing to think on that level.
Yes.
And then when you had me go back, I think you had me go back even a year later and highlight what had come true and circle.
Yes.
And there were some things that the spirit of that thing
happened.
Had like absolutely, no battery. Okay. The spirit of whatever I had asked for had absolutely come true.
Uh-huh.
And I had one of those lists, and I went back to it at one point, and when I wrote the list, it was like, I really want to go to graduate school. Wouldn't it be amazing if at some point I moved to New York City? Wouldn't it be amazing if at some point I lived, in San Francisco? Wouldn't it be amazing if I got to travel to Europe? Wouldn't it be amazing? And these were things that, based on my life experience, I thought there's no way that's going to happen.
Uh-huh.
And they're all checked off. And there's so many things that are checked off.
Right.
And I just let go of the time, like the timeline of when and how. And I think that's another thing. With you having me do this list, it was letting go of the how.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And isn't it fun that you go back and you look at that and it's like, all of these things transpired. Oh my gosh. And I think that first of all, we have to be able to get it into our thinking, our noticing, our being aware that these are even things that we would allow ourselves to think.
Mm-hmm.
Because some things seem so unrealistic to our everyday nature that we just, I can't do that. That's just impossible. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's what the wish list is about, the impossible.
Yeah. And I think something else is that when I have named for myself something that I want, I can't not be aware of it. And I am surprised. I mean, this tool could sound like, you're writing a list.
Right. My
experience each time I've done it, that you've guided me to do it, has been hold on to your seat.
Yeah. Go girl.
Because those things are going to come to you.
Uh-huh.
And because I had named them, I recognized them when they came, and I said yes. Like things on my list, I realized, wow, I really want to travel. Apparently, yes. I want to travel because this has come up about 50 times.
Yes.
So then when a friend suddenly turns to me and says, hey, I really want to go on a road trip, and I was thinking next weekend, and da-da-da, and I look at my, scheduler, and I'm like, I am actually free. The fuddy-duddy me, no, I should probably be sitting in my pajamas at home available for something.
Yes.
But the me that just wrote that list is like, I gotta do it. It's,
Absolutely. How fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it is. And it's like, and the joy that brings in your life. When you get past I couldn't possibly, Are we on limited time now?
We might have 10 minutes left.
Okay. Well, some of my wish lists that I wrote, and I'll just share a few of them, but going to Molly's wedding the end of June, that's in Oregon. And that is coming to pass. I just spoke with her this afternoon about her wedding.
And you had written that when it seemed impossible.
Right.
I remember you were pre-surgery.
Yes.
You couldn't even get out of bed some days.
Right.
And that just seemed like the most, wouldn't it be amazing if I could even sit in a chair upright for like more than 5 minutes.
Yes.
And now you're planning a solo road trip with Chi, driving
Yes.
to Oregon and staying in beautiful sights on the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Going to Lava Hot Springs, going to the coast and the beach. And I put down surviving well in all ways from my heart surgery.
And that seems to be happening.
Well, I had no idea that I was going to have a stroke.
Right, the
to
stroke
go
was a
along
major,
with
okay,
it.
never mind. That was a problem. That was definitely, but.
Well, no, that was okay. That was okay. I knew that I had been having, I don't know if you want to call it a premonition or something, but it was like my concern had been that something was going to go on with my brain, and it didn't right after the surgery, but 3 weeks later, the blood clot, and then going to the brain and then having a stroke. And yet the stroke was minimal. So it's like, thank you, thank you, thank you, And these are the things that you can do to improve from the things that had been a glitch. Okay? And so I've been doing those. So, great sex and fun relationship. Well, I'm sorry, that's not been coming to pass because I'd probably have a heart attack.
The stroke was a minor stumbling block.
Okay. Gifts to various friends and neighbors. Friends visiting frequently and all being well for them and for me. A happy Chi boy in all ways, always. Having a fun birthday. Well, that's coming up. I still don't know what I will do, but in a few weeks, that's coming up on the 7th of June. Dressing stylishly. That is just play for me, costuming. I love to just play. And like I said, about once a year I give away a lot of my clothes. And then I oftentimes acquire things through people giving me, things that are thrown away, whatever. Things that I really, really like. This hat was a giveaway at the Cancer Wellness House. Okay? And I decided, oh my goodness, I like that. This little jacket that I'm currently wearing was a jacket that one of my friends from St. George came and gave to me. This little tiger top was at Fred Meyer's, and it was only like $5, and I really like it. So, okay. Successful GoFundMe. And that's starting to work. We need to take care of some things and letting people know some things on the GoFundMe. Getting stem cells at the Tijuana clinic. So, that looks like that's going to happen. My heart healing from my son's lack of interest in me. Well, what happened was my son actually, for Mom's Day, made it a really fun day for me with flowers and chocolates and taking me to a Thai restaurant, and we had a good time together. Healing my mother wound in all areas. Okay, and all of us have mother wounds, and it's like, okay, I was in orphanage, and mother wound came from having been given up. Then my adopted mom, and she had some real problems and was a major alcoholic, poor thing, and then my own being so sick when I had my son and not being able to take care of him at various times. And, so there's been mother wounds on all different levels that I have needed to heal. And so what I wound up doing was, there is a site called Daily Om. I think it's .org or .com. And I went out on, it had a class called Healing the Mother Wound. So I took it. And I took it with a dear neighbor friend of mine, Jackie. And that was just wonderful. And I gave it to us as Christmas presents. Whee! Unusual Christmas present. It's just like one time I gave my adopted mom, and she had so much. And so what I gave her was eye surgery for people in Nepal from the Seva Foundation. So, and I, gave eye surgery in her name to honor her as a Christmas present. Okay. Being able to travel. Well, it certainly didn't look like I would be able to, but it seems like it's going to happen.
No, you were at the time you were probably writing this list, you were just like trying to travel from your bed to the bathroom. You were like, whoa! There were some major rest stops along the way.
And thinking that I would have any energy to try any of this. It's just like, no, this is impossible. Taking a cruise at prices I can easily afford. I would love to do that. Doing luxury train trips. There's a train trip up in Canada that I was thinking about. My home organized and very clean. Volunteer opportunities that I enjoy. I'm currently, for the last 7 years, serving on the Board of Governors for community health clinics. And we have 7 clinics throughout Utah. And we have 40 to 50,000 patients, and I am on the Board of Governors. And so I'm enjoying that, and I'm also chair for our Public Affairs Committee. So I'm very grateful to, and no money in there, but I'm very grateful to be able to do this. And we even have a clinic for migrant farm workers. And I have gone up with my friend Josie Valdez and our executive director, Dexter Pierce, to go up and put on Christmas parties for the migrant farm workers and their children. And I donated 40 of my doll collection to these sweet little dark-haired girls. And they were darling and amazingly polite. Just amazingly good children.
And that's kind of you being the publisher clearinghouse.
Sweepstakes.
Of just accepting dolls that you have no need for, but you know that there will be a moment where you want them.
Yes. Energy and losing a healthy amount of weight. Oh, jeez. Something else I've noticed, though, is, yes, I'm round. I'm just this cute little old round lady, but it also seems to benefit me because I've seen a lot of my sweet, dear people who have been exceedingly thin. When they get a major health issue, that they don't have the strength and the stamina to fight off things. And for some reason, isn't it amazing how many issues I've had and how I just keep going?
Mm-hmm. The bingo, we're on the 5th bingo card now. The stroke started a whole new bingo card.
Okay, all right. So, just, my hair done frequently, toenails
Which it's
painted.
being done tonight.
Yes, that's right, it's being done tonight. Yes, that's so true. So, and it goes, classes for fun and enlightenment. Fabulously healthy foods that are good for me, ongoing teaching of others, and it just goes on. My little list goes on and on and on, so I'm enjoying that. I'm grateful for all that I've gotten to do. Do you want to go into my little list of things I've done?
Do you know what? I'm going to pause there just to check my battery, because that's what I was getting
Okay.
Do a little pause. A pause to be continued.
A pause with a cause. Listen and learn. Hear with your heart.